Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I have a story that's honestly hard to tell, but I feel like it needs to be shared. It's about betrayal, secrets, and the long, complicated road to finding our strength as a family. It's the story of how we discovered my father was living a double life. For as long as I can remember, my dad was a bit of a mystery. He traveled a lot for work, or so we thought. He was an employee at my mom's company, which always seemed a little unusual, but we never questioned it. He was our dad, and we loved him. My mom, a brilliant and incredibly hardworking woman, built her business from the ground up. She provided us with everything we could ever want or need. Our lives were comfortable, stable, and filled with what I believed was love. But there were always small, unsettling things. My dad was often distant, even when he was home. He'd miss important events, birthdays, school plays, and always had a ready-made excuse about a work emergency. We just got used to it. That was just Dad. Looking back, the signs were all there, like puzzle pieces we couldn't see the full picture of. He was emotionally unavailable, and the financial strain on my mom was immense, though she never let it show. She carried the weight of the company and our family on her shoulders, all while her husband was supposedly helping her run it. The illusion shattered one Tuesday afternoon. I remember the day so clearly. The weather was gray and rainy, matching the storm that was about to hit our family. My mom got a strange email. It was from an anonymous source, but it contained flight itineraries, hotel bookings, and wire transfer receipts, all to Thailand. And they weren't for business trips. The dates lined up perfectly with all the times my dad was supposedly away for work. At first, my mom was in denial. It had to be a mistake, a competitor trying to mess with her, anything but the truth. But the evidence was too specific, too detailed to ignore. She hired a private investigator. What he uncovered was worse than anything we could have ever imagined. My father didn't just have a secret. He had a whole other life, a second family. He had a wife and 2 children in Thailand. He had built a home there, a life, all funded by the money from my mother's company. He had been siphoning funds for years, creating a parallel existence on the other side of the world. The investigator sent us photos. My dad, smiling, holding hands with another woman, playing with children who looked eerily like him. It was surreal. It was like watching a movie, except the main character, the villain, was my own father. The man who was supposed to protect us was the one causing the deepest wound. My mom called a family meeting. My siblings and I sat in the living room, the same room where we'd celebrated so many Christmases and birthdays with him. The air was thick with dread. My mom, with a strength I'll never stop admiring, laid out all the evidence on the coffee table. The photos, the bank statements, everything. She didn't cry. Her voice was steady, but her eyes held a universe of pain. We were in shock. It felt like the floor had just dropped out from under us. How could the man we called Dad do this? How could he look us in the eyes, say he loved us, and then fly across the world to another family he also claimed to love? The betrayal was suffocating. It wasn't just my mom he had lied to. He had lied to us, his children, for our entire lives. Our childhood memories suddenly felt tainted, like scenes from a fictional story he had written. The confrontation was inevitable. My mom arranged for him to come home from his latest business trip. He walked in, smiling, carrying gifts, completely oblivious. The moment he saw our faces, he knew. The game was up. My mom simply asked him, "Who is she?" He crumbled. The confident, globe-trotting businessman disappeared, replaced by a cornered, pathetic man. At first, he tried to lie, to twist the story, to make excuses, but the evidence was overwhelming. Then came the most heartbreaking part of all, the confession. He looked my mom in the eye and said the words that would echo in our minds forever. "I never loved you. I loved your money." He admitted he'd married her for her ambition and financial prospects. He saw her as a bank, a stepping stone to the life he really wanted. That was the moment any lingering sympathy we had for him evaporated. It was pure, cold-blooded calculation. He had used her, used us, as a means to an end. My anger was a physical thing. It was a fire in my chest. My siblings felt it too. The sadness was still there, but it was overshadowed by a burning sense of injustice. My mom, however, was done with emotion. She switched into business mode. She was a CEO, after all, and he had committed corporate fraud. She didn't just divorce him, she took legal action. She meticulously documented every dollar he had funneled out of the company. She made him pay back every single cent. The legal battle was long and messy, but my mom was relentless. She was fighting for her life's work, for her dignity, and for us. He lost everything. The court sided with my mom. He was left with nothing but the consequences of his actions. His second family in Thailand, upon learning that their entire life was funded by stolen money and that he was now broke, left him too. Suddenly, the man who had the families had none. He was completely and utterly alone. During this time, we, as a family, grew closer than ever. My mom, my siblings, and I, we were a unit. We supported each other through the grief and the anger. We went to therapy, both individually and as a group. It was essential. We learned to process the trauma and to lean on each other. We were rebuilding our family on a new foundation, one of honesty and genuine love. Months turned into a year. We started to heal. Then, the calls and texts started. It was our dad. He was desperate. He begged for our forgiveness. He said he'd made a terrible mistake, that he was sorry, that he loved us. But his words felt hollow. Where was this love when he was lying to our faces for decades? Where was this regret when he was spending my mother's hard-earned money on another family? We talked about it together. Could we forgive him? Forgiveness is a powerful thing, and holding on to anger can be toxic. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean letting a toxic person back into your life. We realized that forgiving him was something we had to do for ourselves, to let go of the bitterness, but letting him back into our lives. That was a different story. We made a collective decision. We sent him one final message. We told him that we had to move on for our own well-being. We wished him well, but we made it clear that he was no longer a part of our lives. We blocked his number. We blocked him on social media. We created a boundary to protect our peace, to protect the new, stronger family we had built from the rubble he left behind. It was the hardest decision we've ever had to make, but it was also the most empowering. We chose ourselves. We chose our mother. We chose healing over continuous hurt. Today, our lives are peaceful. My mom's business is thriving more than ever. My siblings and I are closer than ever. We've learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about trust, respect, and unconditional love, all the things he failed to give us. We don't know where he is now, or what he's doing. And honestly, we don't want to. We've closed that chapter. Our story is no longer about his betrayal. It's about our resilience. It's a story of how a mother's strength and her children's love for each other can overcome even the most profound deception. We didn't just survive, we thrived, and that is the ultimate revenge. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you or someone you know is going through a difficult family situation, please remember that seeking professional help can make a world of difference. You are not alone. Please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.
I never thought my own family would be the source of my biggest heartache, but that's exactly what happened. My name is Alex, and this is the story of how a single decision by my father turned my world upside down, only for an unexpected hero to emerge from the shadows. Growing up, my younger brother, Leo, and I were like any other siblings. We played, we fought, we shared secrets. But as we got older, I started to notice a subtle shift. My father's gaze seemed to linger longer on Leo. His praise for Leo's accomplishments was always a little louder. His disappointment in my mistakes a little sharper. I tried not to let it bother me. I focused on my studies, got a good job, and tried to make him proud in my own way. I thought that by being responsible and independent, I was doing what he wanted. I was wrong. The day it all came crashing down was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. My dad called a family meeting. I assumed it was about his retirement plans or maybe a family vacation. The mood in the living room was tense. My mother looked nervous, and Leo wouldn't meet my eyes. Then my father dropped the bombshell. He had finalized his will. He cleared his throat and announced, with a cold finality that still chills me, that the entirety of his estate, the family home, the business, everything would go to Leo. I was stunned. I couldn't speak. It felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. But why? I finally managed to stammer. He looked at me, his expression unyielding. Leo needs it more, he said simply. He's always been more. Suited for the family business. You've always been independent, Alex. You'll be fine on your own. The words were like a physical blow. My independence, something I had worked so hard for, was being used as a weapon against me. It wasn't a compliment. It was a dismissal. I wasn't just being disinherited. I was being erased from the family's future. The hurt was so deep, so profound, I couldn't even cry. I just felt numb. News of my father's decision traveled fast. A few days later, I got a call from my uncle, my father's older brother, Robert. Uncle Robert was a man I had always admired. He was a self-made man, sharp, kind, and incredibly successful in his own right. He and my aunt never had children of their own, and they had always treated me with a special kind of warmth. When he heard what had happened, he was livid. "What is your father thinking?" he boomed over the phone. "This isn't just unfair, it's insulting." I tried to calm him down, telling him it was fine, that I would manage. But he wouldn't hear it. He insisted on seeing me immediately. When I arrived at his house, he sat me down, his face a mixture of anger and compassion. "Alex," he said, his voice softer now, "your father has made a grave mistake. He's let his favoritism blind him. But family isn't about picking favorites. It's about support, about fairness. Your aunt and I, we've watched you grow up. We've seen your hard work, your integrity, your kindness. You are a son to us in every way that matters." His words brought tears to my eyes, the tears I hadn't been able to shed before. He then told me that he had been thinking about his own legacy. Since he had no children, he had decided right then and there to change his own will. He was leaving his entire fortune to me. I was speechless. I knew Uncle Robert was wealthy, but I had no idea just how much. As it turned out, his net worth was more than double my father's. He had built an empire through smart investments and sheer hard work. He was giving it all to me. He said it was not out of pity, but because he believed in me. He wanted to give me the security and the opportunities that my own father had denied me. He wanted to show me what true family support looked like. It was an act of incredible generosity, an act of defiance against my father's injustice. When my father found out, he was furious. The irony was almost comical. He called me, his voice trembling with rage. "How could you accept that?" he yelled. "That's Robert's money. You need to share it with your brother. It's only fair. Leo is your family." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He had the audacity to talk to me about what was fair. He, who had cast me aside without a second thought, was now demanding I share my good fortune with the very brother he had chosen over me. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel hurt or sadness when I heard his voice. I felt a surge of strength. Uncle Robert's belief in me had healed a part of me I thought was broken forever. I took a deep breath and spoke calmly. "No," I said. "No, I will not be sharing it. You made your choice, Dad. You decided who your family was. You told me I was on my own. Well, you were right. I am on my own, and I will be just fine." I told him that my loyalty was now to the man who had shown me what family truly means, my Uncle Robert. I told him that I would use the wealth he had given me to build my own life, to do good in the world, and to honor his faith in me. Then I did something I never thought I would have the courage to do. I told him not to contact me again about this matter. I told him that his decisions had consequences, and this was one of them. I hung up the phone, and a strange sense of peace washed over me. I ignored his subsequent calls and texts, and I ignored the messages from Leo, who suddenly seemed very interested in reconnecting. The door to that part of my life was closed. It's been a few years now. I've used my uncle's inheritance to start my own business, which is thriving. I've also set up a charitable foundation in his and my aunt's name, helping young entrepreneurs who lack family support. I see my uncle and aunt regularly. They are my rock, my true family. The pain of my father's rejection hasn't vanished completely, but it no longer defines me. Instead, it's a reminder that sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you were born into. True wealth isn't about money or possessions. It's about love, respect, and being valued for who you are. And in that, I am the richest man in the world. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt overlooked or undervalued, remember that your worth is not determined by others. Keep believing in yourself, and you might just find your own Uncle Robert when you least expect it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.
Have you ever felt like you had to choose between your family's expectations and your own dreams? That was my reality. My father had a path laid out for me. Join his company. Take over the family business. It was his dream, not mine, when I told him I was starting my own company, a venture I was truly passionate about. He didn't just disapprove. He threw me out, just like that. I was on my own. For the next 8 years, I tried everything. I called. I wrote letters. I sent gifts on birthdays and holidays. I just wanted my dad back. I wanted him to see me, to be proud of the man I was becoming, not just the successor he wanted me to be. But every attempt was met with a cold wall of silence. He even went as far as to formally write me out of his will. He made it crystal clear I was no longer his son in his eyes. The pain of that rejection was immense, a constant weight on my shoulders. It was a lonely and difficult road. During those years, I poured all my energy, all my hurt, and all my hope into my business. There were days I wanted to give up, days I questioned if I had made the right choice. Was my dream worth losing my family over? But something inside me, a quiet determination, kept me going. I worked day and night, fueled by a desire to prove not just to him, but to myself, that I could succeed on my own terms. Slowly, painstakingly, my company started to grow. We hit milestones, we gained recognition, and we started to thrive. The success was sweet, but it was also bittersweet because the one person I wanted to share it with most wasn't there. Then, one day, the phone rang. It was him. After 8 years of silence, my father was on the line. He started talking about how proud he was, how he always knew I had it in me. He wanted to meet, to catch up, to make things right. It sounded like everything I had ever wanted to hear. But as he spoke, I learned the real reason for his sudden change of heart. His own company, the one he chose over me, was struggling. It was on the verge of collapse. Meanwhile, my name was in the news. My company was a success story, and I had built a life of financial security and influence. Suddenly, it all clicked into place. This wasn't about reconciliation. This wasn't about a father missing his son. This was about what I could do for him. He saw my fame, my money, my success, and he saw a lifeline for his failing business. He didn't want his son back. He wanted a bailout. The man on the phone wasn't the father I missed. He was the same man who had turned his back on me, just with a different motive. His pride was gone, replaced by desperation. All those years of trying, of hoping, of aching for his approval, they came crashing down in that one phone call. The image I had of him, the father I had desperately tried to reconnect with, shattered. I realized the relationship I had been fighting for was a fantasy. He hadn't changed. If my company had failed, if I had come crawling back to him, he would have remained as cold and unforgiving as ever. His love was conditional, tied to my ability to fit into his plan or, now, to save it, I had to make a choice. Do I play the part of the forgiving son, step in and save his company, and finally get the approval I thought I always wanted? Or do I protect myself, the life I built from scratch, and the peace I finally found without him? It was one of the hardest decisions of my life, but also one of the clearest. I couldn't go back. I couldn't allow myself to be used. The love and respect I deserved had to come from a place of sincerity, not from a place of need. So, I told him no. I explained that the time for making things right had passed 8 years ago. The son he threw out had learned to stand on his own 2 feet, and I wasn't going to let him knock me down again. I wished him well, but I made it clear that my life, my company, and my future were my own. I was cutting him off, not out of spite or revenge, but out of self-preservation. It's a strange feeling. There's a part of me that will always mourn the father-son relationship we could have had. But there's a much larger part of me that feels free. Free from the weight of his expectations, free from the endless struggle for his conditional love. I learned that sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is to walk away from people who only value you for what you can give them, even if that person is your own father. My story isn't about holding grudges. It's about recognizing your own worth. It's about understanding that you can't force someone to love you or respect you. Real relationships are built on unconditional support, not on what you can offer. If you're going through something similar, where you feel your value is tied to your success or your compliance, please know that you are not alone. It's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to build your own family, a chosen family of people who love you for who you are, not for what you have. Your dreams are valid, and you deserve to be surrounded by people who believe in them and in you. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more content.